In a small house in the town of Taos, New Mexico, a bright red Ford Mustang vanished along with its owner. When the family broke in to check, they had no idea that the horrific scene waiting ahead would plunge this peaceful town into a nightmare that would last for years. The body of a 22-year-old mother lay cold in the bedroom, while the car she cherished, like her firstborn, had disappeared without a trace. But what's more terrifying is that the killer wasn't a stranger. It was someone she once knew, someone she trusted, someone she invited into her home. Welcome to the Case Files, where we bring you real cases, tragic stories reconstructed through the eyes of investigators, victims' families, and scientific evidence. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most shocking cases that rattled the town of Taos, New Mexico in 2002. In this episode, we're taking a deep dive into the infamous case of the Red Mustang murder, the death of LeAnne Martinez, a brutal murder case where trust was betrayed, where the killer hid in the shadows of familiarity, and where a bright red sports car became the key evidence to expose the crime. Part 1. Portrait of a Young Mother. Taos, New Mexico. Summer 2002. The town of Taos, with a population of only about 6,200 people, was famous as a charming tourist destination, with majestic mountain scenery, rich indigenous art, and such a peaceful atmosphere that residents typically didn't lock their doors, left keys in their cars, and walked alone at night without any fear. This was a place where crime seemed to exist only on television, never in real life. Until the summer of 2002, when 2 consecutive murders tore apart that veil of peace. In that context, LeAnne Martinez, a 22-year-old girl born in 1980, was gradually building a life for herself and her 3-year-old daughter, Isela. LeAnne wasn't a girl from a wealthy family, but she had something not everyone has in their 20s: determination, independence, and boundless love for her daughter. LeAnne's parents, Mr. Lai and Mrs. Emily Martinez, were always proud when talking about their daughter. Mrs. Emily once recalled, "LeAnne was a funny, quick-witted girl who always knew how to make people laugh. She was very straightforward, not afraid to speak her mind, but also very thoughtful and knew how to care for others." Starting at age 16, LeAnne earned her own money by working part-time after school. She saved every penny to buy her dream car, a bright red 2001 Ford Mustang. To LeAnne, this car wasn't just transportation. It was a symbol of freedom, of the tireless efforts of a young girl who wanted to write her own life story. She cared for the Mustang, like caring for her firstborn, always keeping it clean and shiny. In 1999, LeAnne met Kavi, a young man who made her heart flutter. Their relationship was intense, but also turbulent, breaking up and getting back together multiple times. Then LeAnne discovered she was pregnant. She was worried, not ready to be a mother, but her family was there to support her completely. In contrast, Kavi, the biological father of the baby, disappeared right after hearing the news. On May 22, 2000, LeAnne gave birth to a daughter named Estrella. From that moment, her life completely changed. Every plan, every dream revolved around caring for and creating a good future for her daughter. LeAnne worked at a customer service center, raising her child while planning to continue her education to build a career. She wanted Estrella to grow up in a stable home, even without a father's presence. In 2002, LeAnne began dating Eston Salas, a co-worker. But this relationship wasn't smooth. Eston was controlling and had shown violent behavior. Once, he threw a beer bottle at LeAnne's car window, shattering it. LeAnne shared this with her brother, and the family advised her to break up. But LeAnne still hadn't made a firm decision to leave the relationship. Part 2. Unusual signs. In the summer of 2002, LeAnne began noticing strange things happening in her small house. Items kept mysteriously disappearing from her home. First, it was the stereo system. Then toothbrushes, moisturizer, hairspray, even a package of beef jerky. There was even a time when she discovered the house temperature had been adjusted up to 30 degrees Celsius without knowing who did it. LeAnne called her sister Valerie, her voice full of concern. "Sis, I think someone's been sneaking into my house. Things keep disappearing, and I don't understand why." Her sister advised her to report it to the police, but LeAnne thought these were just trivial items, not worth making a big deal about. Her father, Mr. Lai, even went to the house to check once, but found no signs of break-in. The door wasn't broken, no strange traces. The family thought maybe LeAnne was just forgetting or confused. But LeAnne knew exactly what was happening. She felt someone was watching her, sneaking into the house when she was away. But she couldn't prove it, and didn't know what to do. Who could have guessed that these petty thefts were actually a warning of an impending tragedy? Part 3. The Fateful Night. July 13th, 2002. July 13th, 2002 was an ordinary Saturday. LeAnne had a free evening and decided to leave her daughter Estrella with her mother Emily. Around 5 to 6 p.m., she dropped off her daughter at her mother's house, then drove the red Mustang with her best friend July to the town of Española, not far from Taos, to attend a local festival. Around 10:30 p.m., while the two girls were on their way to the festival, LeAnne received a call from her boyfriend Eston. He demanded to meet her at his house. LeAnne and July drove there and sat in the car for a while. LeAnne and Eston talked, then argued fiercely. According to July's account, they argued about drugs. Eston had gotten involved with illegal substances, and LeAnne was furious about it. After the argument, LeAnne was no longer in the mood to continue partying. She decided to return to Taos. Around 2:30 a.m. on July 14th, when the two girls returned home, LeAnne told July, "I'm really tired. I'm going home to sleep." That was the last time July saw her friend alive. Sunday morning, July 14th, 2002. Mrs. Emily woke up, waiting for her daughter to come pick up her granddaughter. But LeAnne didn't show up. She called many times, but no one answered. By evening, the whole family started to really worry. They decided to go to LeAnne's house to check. When they arrived, they immediately noticed the bright red Ford Mustang, LeAnne's pride and joy, wasn't there. They knew if the car wasn't there, LeAnne certainly wasn't home either. But Mrs. Emily still wanted to go in to make sure. The door was unlocked. Inside the house was dark. As Mrs. Emily entered the bedroom, a chilling feeling ran down her spine. She opened the door, and the scene before her eyes almost made her faint. LeAnne's body lay motionless on the floor, completely naked. Her hands were raised above her head, as if she had surrendered to the attacker. Her body was covered in blood, riddled with stab wounds. Mrs. Emily screamed in anguish, then collapsed. Immediately, police were called. The scene was sealed off. The investigation began. Part 4. The Investigation. Every small clue. The crime scene. When investigators arrived at the scene, they quickly realized this wasn't an ordinary robbery. The TV, stereo, items in LeAnne's purse were all intact. The killer didn't take money, didn't take property. So what was his purpose? During the crime scene examination, police discovered blood trails extending from the kitchen into the bedroom, showing that LeAnne had tried to run away but didn't make it. Heel shoe prints clearly visible on the floor, an important detail to identify the type of shoes the killer wore. The body lay in the bedroom, both hands raised like a gesture of pleading or surrender. LeAnne was only wearing one sock on her right foot. The body had 19 stab wounds, showing the brutality of the attacker. Even more horrifying was that the autopsy results showed LeAnne had been sexually assaulted after death. This was the behavior of a deviant, cruel to the extreme. But fortunately, the victim's body still contained the killer's DNA sample, an extremely important piece of evidence. The missing Mustang. LeAnne's red Ford Mustang had disappeared. Police immediately issued an all-state manhunt throughout New Mexico. Information about the car was broadcast on television channels, radio stations, and newspapers. First suspect, Eston Salas. The first man police suspected was Eston Salas, LeAnne's boyfriend. The reasons were very clear. Just hours before her death, LeAnne had argued fiercely with him. Eston had a history of violence, having thrown a beer bottle at LeAnne's car. In many women's murder cases, the perpetrator is often a boyfriend, ex-husband, or acquaintance. Eston was summoned to the police station for questioning. His testimony largely matched July's account. Eston said that after LeAnne left with her friend, they had no further contact. He had a clear alibi and showed no signs of involvement in the case. Police temporarily didn't consider Eston the main suspect, but still hadn't completely ruled him out. Breakthrough from the family. Not long after, LeAnne's family provided important information. LeAnne had shared many times with her sister Valerie about the strange thefts in her house. Sister Valerie recounted, "My sister told me about very strange things. She felt like someone had been sneaking into her house. Once my father went there to check, but found nothing unusual." The first time LeAnne noticed something abnormal was when the stereo system disappeared while the house door wasn't broken. She immediately called her sister and was very scared. A few weeks later, toothbrushes, deodorant, hairspray also disappeared. Even a package of beef jerky went missing mysteriously. Police began to suspect. Could the person who had been sneaking into the house to steal items have returned, been caught by LeAnne, and killed her to cover their tracks? Part 5. Another case. Could it be a serial killer? Just 1 week before LeAnne was murdered, Taos police also discovered the body of another woman, Mariawara Shand, 38 years old, killed in her own home in the Ranchos de Taos area. Mariawara had also been stabbed multiple times, her throat slashed, and showed signs of sexual assault. 2 women living alone, killed by the same brutal method, just days apart in the same area. This was no longer a coincidence. Police began to fear they were facing a serial killer. They began to review all connections between the 2 victims. Did they know any of the same people? Did they attend the same church? Were they part of any clubs? But LeAnne's family confirmed she had never known Mariawara. Finally, after deeper investigation, police determined the 2 cases were not related. The killer of Mariawara Shand was Nathaniel Duran, 18 years old, a neighbor living right next to the victim's house, and the grandson of the landlord who rented to Mariawara. Duran was arrested on July the 19th, 2002, just days after LeAnne was murdered. But LeAnne's case remained open. The killer was still hiding somewhere, possibly ready to attack the next victim. Part 6. Witness and key evidence. Important witness, Mr. Joseph Steele. Fortunately, an important witness emerged. Mr. Joseph Steele, LeAnne's neighbor, said that on the night of the murder, his dog was barking frantically. When he looked out the window, he saw a white male, bald-headed, wearing a beige checkered shirt walking across the lawn toward LeAnne's house. Mr. Steele described, "The man was about 5'9" to 6 tall, weighing about 200 to 220 pounds. I didn't recognize his face because it was dark, but I clearly remember the beige checkered shirt." This witness matched perfectly with images captured by nearby security cameras. Notably, Eston Salas, LeAnne's ex-boyfriend, didn't have that build. This helped eliminate Eston from the suspect list. The red Mustang found. A few days later, police received a report. A red Ford Mustang had been abandoned near a school in Albuquerque, about 80 miles south of Taos. Police checked and confirmed this was LeAnne's car. Inside the car, they discovered bloodstains and fingerprints. This was the biggest breakthrough in the case. Information about the car spread throughout television broadcasts, and the community began providing clues. Statement from an old friend. Dawn. An old friend of LeAnne named Dawn contacted police. She said that on July 14th, just hours after LeAnne was murdered, her cousin Richard Sabino Fresquez came to her house in a red Mustang. Dawn asked, "Where did you get this car?" Richard replied, "Borrowed it from a friend." But Dawn felt something wasn't right. Richard seemed rushed, anxious. He bought new shoes and immediately threw the old pair in the trash. Dawn didn't think much of it at the time, but when she saw the news about the case on television, she realized it was LeAnne's car. Physical evidence. Police searched through the trash at Dawn's house and found blood-stained shoes, a beige checkered shirt, exactly as witness Joseph Steele had described. Police sent the blood samples from the shoes and shirt for testing. Results showed this was LeAnne Martinez's blood. Martinez. Iwo, Richard Fresquez's criminal record. When checking records, police discovered Richard Fresquez, 23 years old, had a prior conviction for food theft. He had just been released on parole only a few weeks before committing the crime, still under supervision for another offense. More importantly, Richard was an old schoolmate of LeAnne's. He had attended parties at her house, knew well that she lived alone with her young daughter. He also knew about the red Mustang, LeAnne's pride. All the pieces began to fit together. Police suspected that Richard was the one who had been sneaking into LeAnne's house multiple times to steal items. And on the night of July 13th, when LeAnne came home alone, he returned, but this time, not to steal. Part 7. Capturing the killer. Police tracked Richard Fresquez nationwide. He had fled New Mexico, but couldn't run forever. Finally, he was captured in Palm Desert, California, over 600 miles from Taos. When interrogated, Richard evaded and denied guilt. He said, "I just borrowed the car. I got scared, so I ran." But the evidence didn't lie. DNA in LeAnne's body matched Richard. Blood on the shoes and shirt was LeAnne's blood. Fingerprints in the car belonged to Richard. Witness saw him going into LeAnne's house on the night of the murder. All evidence pointed to one person, Richard Sabino Fresquez. Part 8. The Trial and Verdict. Richard Fresquez was brought to trial at Taos Court, charged with first-degree murder and related crimes. At trial, he still wouldn't admit to murder. He claimed, "The sex was consensual. We argued, then I accidentally hurt her." But the jury didn't believe his testimony. How could he accidentally stab the victim 19 times? How could he sexually assault the victim after she was already dead? After many days of tense trial proceedings, the jury declared, Richard Fresquez was guilty. Judge Sam Sanchez pronounced the sentence, life in prison plus 6 years, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. When the verdict was announced, LeAnne's family embraced each other and cried. They had obtained some measure of justice for the young woman whose life was stolen, but nothing could erase the pain of loss. Part 9. After the case, those left behind. Estrella, the motherless child. Little Estrella, Isela, was only 3 years old when her mother died. The little girl didn't understand what had happened. Every time she heard a car engine, she would run to the window, hoping her mother had come home. Valerie Martinez, LeAnne's sister, adopted Estrella and tried to explain to her niece that her mother would never return. At the funeral, a relative recounted, I clearly remember the sight of the child sitting in each person's lap and just crying. No one deserved to die like that, and no family deserve to endure the pain we went through. Fear about the possibility of parole. In 2019, 17 years after the case, LeAnne's family once again had to face the pain when House Bill 564 of New Mexico was brought up for discussion. This bill would allow inmates like Richard Fresquez to be considered for parole every 2 years. LeAnne Martinez, who was raising Estrella, spoke out against it. "We can't have a normal life, because every 2 years we're dragged back into this case. For my niece, who lost her mother when she was just 3 years old, having to face her mother's killer every 2 years is psychological torture." LeAnne's family lives in fear that one day Richard Fresquez might be released. The town of Taos changed forever. After 2 consecutive murders in the summer of 2002, the town of Taos was no longer the peaceful place it once was. Residents began locking their doors, being more careful when going out at night, and no longer completely trusting in the safety of their small community. Thomas Lorenzen, Taos police chief, former Los Angeles Police Department officer, commented, "This is a wake-up call. Crime doesn't just happen in big cities. It can come to any place, at any time." The LeAnne Martinez case isn't just a single crime, but a symbol of a deep tragedy, where trust was betrayed, where single women became easy targets for those with evil natures. Don't dismiss unusual signs, no matter how small. LeAnne had discovered items disappearing from her home multiple times, but she thought they were just trivial things not worth reporting to police. If she had reported it sooner, police might have caught Richard Fresquez before he murdered her. Stay vigilant even with people you know. Richard Fresquez wasn't a stranger. He was LeAnne's old schoolmate, someone invited into her home. But that familiarity made LeAnne let her guard down. The importance of DNA evidence and forensic science. Without the DNA sample, without the bloodstains on the shoes and shirt, Richard Fresquez very likely would have gotten away. He might even have continued to kill like a serial killer. The power of community. It was witness Joseph Steely's account, information from friend Dawn, small clues from family that helped police piece together the full picture and capture the killer. LeAnne Martinez's death is a wake-up call. In the modern world, where privacy and independence are celebrated, safety, especially for women living alone, must still be seen as an absolute priority. Trust isn't wrong, but it needs to be accompanied by vigilance. We can't control the behavior of evil people, but we can increase our self-defense capabilities, recognize risks, and keep ourselves and our loved ones protected. If you're a woman living alone, always lock your doors, even when you're home. Install alarm systems or security cameras. Report to police immediately when you notice unusual signs. Don't open the door to strangers, even if they claim to be repair workers or delivery people. Share your schedule with family and friends so they know where you are. And never think it won't happen to me, because LeAnne thought that too, until it was too late. Thank you for listening to the Case Files. If you want to learn more about other real cases, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video with your loved ones. Because behind every crime is a truth waiting to be uncovered, and sometimes a lesson that could save your life. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, justice may be delayed, but it should never be denied.